By this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, you have already figured out that I am different from some of your other teachers. And today we're going to tackle the difference that comes with being a flipped learner, what it is, and how to rock it. Pause your video and write this down so that you know where you're going today. Here are your lesson objectives, which you will find at the start of every flipped lesson that I create for you. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to define flipped learning, list and explain your student expectations of flipped learning, and follow those expectations to successfully complete a flipped lesson. Your cue words, which you also need to pause and write down because they are the major key words and big ideas of this lesson, are flipped learning, components of a flipped lesson, expectations of a flipped student, and how to be a flipped learning master. You might notice that these concepts are very similar to your learning objectives. To begin, have you ever been frustrated because a teacher went too fast or too slow in a lesson? Needed a lesson to be repeated more than once? Gotten irritated with a disruptive classmate? Missed a day of classes and not understood the concepts that were covered while you were gone? Or wanted to just learn the material on your own and move on to a more productive use of time? If so, flipped learning may be your solution. It's based on the idea that there are two parts to a learning environment. Your lecture or direct instruction, where the teacher tells you exactly what you need to know, and your practice, your independent practice that we usually call homework. Typically speaking, in a traditional model, you get lecture at school and you do independent practice at home. This can make some problems, and it's really time consuming. You spend a lot of time doing lecture and a lot of time doing homework, and that can be hard. So while you're flipped learning, in a flipped model, we put that independent practice back into the classroom where the teacher is, and we send the lecture home via a video lesson or a reading assignment of some sort. Direct instruction is then done on your part, where you don't need so much teacher help, and independent practice is done with me, where you get the support you might need. Pause your video and write this down, because here comes that definition again. Flipped learning is sending your lecture home as homework and keeping your independent practice in the classroom. That's simple. There are some advantages to having a flipped learning environment. First off, your homework time is much shorter for a flipped lesson than a traditional worksheet. These lessons are usually no more than 10 minutes of video. You're watching a video, you're taking notes, you're jotting down the responses to a few questions, bing, bang, boom, you are done. Advantage number 2, you can move through the lessons and learn at your own pace. If you need it slower, rewind, rewatch. If you need it faster, pause, jot your notes down, and move on to the next little bit. You've got the power. You don't miss lecture when you're absent. Since the lecture is at home, you have access to them anywhere you have access to the internet. And you're in charge of your own learning, which means you can personalize this to fit your own individual, super special, unique learning needs. You've got the power. Last but not least, there is 24/7 teacher support. When you're learning how to do new skills and you're putting those skills into practice, you're in the classroom with me. When you're learning the basic concept at home on your own, you've got my voice in your head telling you how it goes. And if for some reason you ever forget something that we've talked about, then you can and should rewatch the lesson video. It's like having notes there for you. So, what does a flipped lesson involve? You should be writing these down. because this is one of your keywords, I'm pretty sure. Your lesson objectives and your keywords are the first component of a flipped lesson. Any lesson video I personally make will have these on slides at the beginning of the video so that you can write down the parts that you are supposed to be learning and what the main ideas in the lesson are. The next part is the lesson video, where we get into the concept of what you're supposed to be learning. This is just a lesson in video format. And then the last part for me is a practice formative. You will notice that this assignment, or most of your assignments, are actually embedded on a formative that has questions. You answer those questions, it scores them, and I have instant feedback on what you got and what you did not. So, make sure you pause your video, and if you didn't listen carefully the first time, go back, rewind, and listen again, then write all of this down. Expectations of a flipped student, another keyword that you should be writing these down. So, first off, I expect that you actually watch and listen to the video. Since it's the lesson, you can't learn anything from it if you're not listening and paying attention and engaging with it. Sometimes you can watch faster, etc., but you should never, ever, ever mute your teacher. You need to take notes, and we will have another lesson later that talks about how to take notes and when to take notes, but note-taking is an important part of your success. Also, pro tip for my class, I let you use your notes on my quizzes. Just saying. 3, you need to complete the practice assignment. Those are the question parts in Go Formative. They give me the feedback on what you got and what you did not so that I can help you more in class. And last but not least, you need to make sure you've done these 3 things before you come to class on the due date. So if this video were due on Friday, it means that I'm expecting you to come to class Friday having already watched it and taken notes. This is also another important part. Ask questions when you have them in class. So if something confuses you and you come to class, at the beginning when I say, does anybody have any questions about the lesson material, your hand should be in the air. Own it. Wave that thing around like you just don't care, because I am going to give you the solutions to your confusion. I can only do that if you ask, though, because my telepathy is out of order. Again, make sure you listened carefully and that you put this in your notes. So, there are a few steps to becoming a flipped learning master and truly taking charge of your own learning experience. Number 1, complete your flipped homework early. I don't give out videos every day. I give you a couple of days to get them watched. So, make sure you watch them sooner on so you take notes and you finish the practice and you don't forget about them. Also, this gives you time to refresh a couple times if your homework practice portion didn't go the way you wanted it. Start your flipped lesson watching by watching the video through one time without doing anything but watching. Watch it a second time and take your notes the second time when you know what to expect, so you know where you need to pause and you know what's going on. Use the pause button, the rewind, and the rewatch options as many times as you need. So if you didn't hear it the first time it went through the slide while you were trying to take notes, rewind, pause. If you didn't understand the concept the first time, rewatch the video over and over and over till you get it, yo. And last but not least, review your practice results and write down questions that you have from that in your notes. Ask them in your class, and then you can focus your studies on the parts you need to get stronger instead of the parts that you've already mastered. One last time, if you didn't remember to in the first place, pause your video, write these down, and if you need to, give it another listen. So to sum up, Flip Teaching flips homework and lecture around and puts you in charge of your learning so that you can make the most of your lesson. After this video, I will usually remind you about your practice assignment, but we're going to do our first practice assignment after the note-taking lesson. Get your questions ready, folks.